start with the last group. These are the 3 contested legislative races. Next are the 25th primary. No.
Okay, sorry.
We have District 2 or 3. Agreement is 4. I'll get it right. In District 4, we have Ian Gilbert here. His opponent, Mr. Schantz, was unable to make it tonight. And in District 7, we have Mr. Kulzer, our incumbent, and his opponent, Josh Leviker. And in District 5, we have our incumbent, Dick Chartrand, and his opponent, Erik, Griffin. I would note for everyone that Mr. Chartrand is technically still a registered Democrat, but did change parties and was given permission by the county committee to run as a Republican. He is a Republican as an election year, so that's why he's here. We didn't flip a coin, but since your opponent isn't here, we'll let you start first, and then we'll go right down the table for 2 minutes. When we close, Mr. Chartrand will go first, and we'll go back the other way, and Mr. Gilbert will be the last one to speak. So Ian, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you, Mike. Thank you to the local party committee for putting this on, and for the individuals here from the media ready to ask us questions. We look forward to answering you. I was thinking it would be really great if we could do something like this in the future, maybe during school hours, and get some high schoolers in the auditorium, maybe down the road. But anyways, again, thank you very much. I also want to thank my family for coming in today, and for all the people who've shown up. So I just want to give a quick introduction to who I am. Unlike most of the candidates, I didn't grow up in Lewis County. I grew up in Adams, New York. My roots in the North Country go back several generations, but I moved to Lewis County for the same reason that a lot of people do, that they viewed it as a wonderful place to raise a family. My connections to Lewis County go back to my days in college when I came out during the summers to work at Beaver Camp. And that's really when I fell in love with the county. It's also how I eventually met my wife after finishing my undergraduate studies at Queen's University, where I studied history and government. Moved back to Lewis County, worked for a little over a year as a woodworker, got married, then went on to law school at Penn State University, graduated in 2015. Since then, I've worked at 2 different firms. I work at a firm in Watertown right now where I focus my practice largely on transactional law. So what that is mostly anything to do with small businesses, succession planning for farms, for mom and pop type companies. I enjoy doing a lot of that type of work. Contract negotiations, so kind of bread and butter sort of law, happy, nice kind of law, legal areas. I enjoy that. It's not all that I do, but actually recently one of the areas that I've been doing a lot of is municipal law. So what that is most local towns and villages, they outsource their legal work to private firms. I'm privileged to do a lot of work for places like Alex Bay, Sackett's Harbors, some work for the town of Croghan, town of Pinckney as well.
10 seconds.
Through that, I've learned a lot of what goes into the process of local government, and I like to apply those skills if I could be privileged to serve on the Board of Legislators as well. So thank you very much.
Mr. Kulzer.
Thank you, Mike. I'm Greg Kulzer, the incumbent for District 7 Legislator. I'd like to thank the Republican Committee for setting this up, and the nice board of newscasters up there. Yeah, that'll be asking me grilling questions probably. I've lived here in Lewis County since 1999. I moved here with my daughter after I got divorced, and I was the local dairy inspector for New York State. So I handled craft and Lowville Producers Co-op and all the other facilities in the region. I actually helped several small startups get into business and help them with all the information they needed here in Lewis County, actually. And I continued to do that until the end of my career, which was December 27th. I chose to end my relationship with the department and continue on as a legislator. That was my choice to make. Either I had to make that choice or continue on as an inspector, give up the legislator position. Those were my choices to be made, and I chose to continue to serve Lewis County residents. That's all I get.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Leviker.
Yes, Josh Leviker, running for District 7 Legislator. Again, I'd like to thank Mike Youngs and the Republican Committee for hosting this event this evening. I'm a lifelong resident of Lewis County, I'm 34 years old. Went to school here at Lowville, went on to 2 years, got my associate's degree at a 2-year college, SUNY Del High, for construction management. Normally that turns into a 3-year, usually takes 3 years to complete that. I completed it in 2. I had 76 credits. I did in 2 years while traveling home on Friday nights and traveling back to college Sunday nights. I worked at a local dairy farm as a hired man. So in 2 years of college, I spent 2 weekends there. So that goes to show some of the hard work and dedication that I can put in. Currently, have since college, when I got my construction management degree, employed by Barrett Paving as a estimator, project manager. I started as an intern while in college during the summer months, came up through as an engineer, superintendent, project manager, estimator, and I'm a blend of both. I estimate anywhere from $10,000 projects to $50 million projects, and if my projects are the low bid for the private work, I'll oversee them as the manager and bring them in on budget. So managing budgets, small or large, workforce, people, subcontractors, I do that on a daily basis. I moved from Lowville, now reside in Turn with my wife, Alicia, of almost 6 years, and her 2.5-year-old son. Moving there piqued my interest. I am currently the mayor for the village, and I sit on the town planning board and donate my time to the Turn Ridge Riders Snowmobile Club. I am currently the vice president, so putting in time and hard work, I'm not a stranger to that.
Mr. Griffin.
Thank you, Mike. Hi, my name is Erik Griffin. I'm a longtime resident of Lowville and Lewis County. I'm an active member of the Sons of the American Legion of Lowville Post 162. I have graduated from Lowville Academy Central School. Since I've been out of school, I have worked different jobs through Lewis County, in New York State, and in Florida. I have also been self-employed since I was 12 years old, and currently work at Kraft as a Core Tech employee. It is time for new leadership, and it is time for the younger generation to get more involved in our community. I'm willing to work with the people of our community to learn their needs. I'm willing to help cut taxes to bring in new businesses to this community. I am looking for new businesses right now to come to our community. It is time to make Lewis County greater. By doing this, we need to cut taxes, better maintain our roads. I am your Republican candidate for Lewis County Legislator in the 5th District. Let's make Lewis County greater.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Mr. Chartrand.
Yes, thank you, Mike, and the Republican Party, and the news people that are here to ask the questions tonight. I'm going to attempt to put 6 years of accomplishments in about a 2-minute time. Mike, is that what we got?
That's what you got.
Okay, I've served 3 terms as legislator for District 5. I represent about 98% of the people who live in Lowville, New York. As a legislative member, I serve on the Lewis County General Hospital Board of Managers. I've served on that several terms, 1995 to 2004 and 2014 to present. Both times we went from red ink to black ink at the hospital. I developed, along with the other legislators, an MOU that allowed the hospital to pay back $4.8 million in debt over 4 years. We've been fumbling with that for years, on how they're gonna get that back. They come in, we're gonna pay you back, then we're not. I said, let's put a MOU together, a memorandum of understanding, we both agree to it, and we pay it off. They've paid it off. The hospital now is in black ink, doing quite well. I was involved with the legislators to bring the JCC satellite campus to Lewis County. I'm proud to say they've already certified 23 students in the carpenter field, and 19 of them, 20 of them have jobs now in the local 3-county area. I've worked on committees to get side-by-side regulations changed. That's an uphill battle, but I haven't given up, and I still hope to get through with that. The first year I was in, I made safety improvement recommendations on the Snort Run event, and continue to make safety recommendations on that throughout. I worked to get a rail line from Lowville to Carthage to belong to the county. My goal, or my vision for that, is a biking, walking, jogging trail, something that Lowville Academy, Beaver River Central School, and Carthage School can use for their cross-country, as well as aerobic acts for all of their deals. And my wife and I, unfortunately, have a relative who died running cross-country at Beaver River by running on the roads. So I'd love nothing better than to get a place so they can do those activities where it's safe. Okay. I've worked hard on various local initiatives and organizations. St. Peter's Festival Committee, 35 years. Volunteer Fire Department in Lowville, 40 years. Boy Scouts, 15. Village Planning Board, 3. Voting Machine Custodian, 42 years. Member of the Elks for 47 years. Under Education Instructor for 28 years.
Thank you. Yeah. Mr. Atkinson will ask the first question, and the first response will be Mr. Sharp. And we'll cross it.
Let me ask you guys the same question I put to the clerks when we started. Republican Party's been through some changes the last few years. In 2019, what does it mean to you to be a Republican? And if you're elected or re-elected, how do you bring those beliefs to your job? I think it starts with you, Mr.
Starts with me, that's fine. Well, that's an interesting question, having been a Democrat for about 42 years, but I took a lot of jokes about being the only Democrat on the legislative board, 1 out of 9. I'm proud to say today that I never once have felt that an idea that I brought forward was put down by the Republican candidates on that board. And I think Greg can attest to that too. We take a look at the issues, we talk about the pros and cons of the issues, and we come to common ground for the good of the taxpayers of Lewis County. I don't think anybody in here, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, Independent, believes in everything that party has to stand for. So what I will do is I'll stand for what I've always stood for, and that's what's in the best interest of the voters of Lewis County. At this level, that's more important than some of the chaos that you're seeing at the federal level. If they would take some keys from village, town, and county government, they could learn how to operate the state and the federal. Thank you.
Well, I've been a Republican since the day that I could vote. Over the years, I have seen different things through the Republican Party, some good and some bad, but we as Republicans, as the younger generation, can have impact in the new ways, in the new technology that we can bring forward and work with the people of this county and work with other people that are willing to come here to live or bring their business to here. We need respect one each other on the board, whether it's Republican, Democrat, or Independent. We is a working organization. It's like a business, but as a business like this is a huge business, we need to work together to maintain this county to be greater.
I've been a Republican since my first time voting. Republican, in my eyes, is what Lewis County is, or upstate New York. It's the working person. It's not red or blue. It's Lewis County is hardworking. You put your boots to the ground. That's what made Lewis County. That's what it is. It's farming. It's agricultural, and tourism. It's with the industry changing now. With it's not the heyday that it was in the early 1900s, 1920s. We got to look to do and promote tourism in the middle and southern part of the county, and that's huge. That's what brings in a big source of revenue for the county. But also you got to do what's right. You just because you're Republican, you can't vote or push your Republican beliefs. You got to do what's right for the county, government, and the people.
10 seconds.
That's my view.
Well, I've been a Republican since I started voting when I was 18, and so that'd be about 40 years ago. Now you know how old I am. The Republican, as far as the Republican Party goes, I believe that they are. It's a more conservative party with we would like smaller government, less tax increases. Try to keep the budgets under control. I think if if the party that's in control of the state right now would start looking that way, and running that way, it would be beneficial to them also to have those views. I don't think anybody actually votes party anymore. I think they vote how they feel about the person that's running, and how their outlook is.
10 seconds.
And my outlook is to stay conservative, keep a low budget, keep taxes down, and that's what I really look to be.
So I first became a Republican when I was 18 years old, the first time I went in to register to vote. And I think the best summary I ever heard of what it means to be a Republican or a conservative more specifically is we believe, number one, that our rights come to us from God. It's not something that's created by man, but it's something that exists naturally. And that number two is that government is our shared project to protect those rights, whether it exists at the local level or the federal level or the state level. And I think that translates into two basic systems. One is a belief in individual liberty of all people, regardless of who you are, and also the importance of the rule of law. And those two things can tend to be in conflict, but where I think government works is when it finds the right balance between liberty and the rule of law. Now, as far as what I would bring to the Board of Legislators, the most effective town and village board meetings that I've sat in on, you would never know who the Republicans were and who the Democrats were, because they all bring the same mentality to it that, we're here to balance a budget, and most of them are working part-time for one thing, but we're here to balance a budget, we're here to pass good laws, we're here to do the people's work, and it would be that same mentality that I would bring to the Board of Legislators.
Mr. Gilbert.
Okay. It's no secret that people are leaving New York State at a very alarming rate, but even here locally, numbers show 2.5% in population loss last year alone just for Lewis County. And by 2030, Cornell University is predicting that county population could drop below 20,000 people. So what can you, as legislators, do to work together and kind of control this population loss and hopefully attract some new people back into Lewis County?
So this is something that I'm really interested in, is what other states are doing, especially. Just addressing the state issue first. What states are experiencing growth right now? Well, states like Texas, states like Utah, states like Georgia. And the common trait in the states that have experienced growth is that they adopt conservative leadership at the state level. They lower taxes to a reasonable degree. They're not throwing the government, completely out the window, but they're lowering taxes to a degree that allows for development and attracts investors. And that's why you've seen a lot of a shift from states like Connecticut, New York, California. People my age especially, they're moving to states where the economy is doing a lot better. Now, as far as at the county level, I think that there are going to be a lot of opportunities for us to attract new jobs into the community. And that's going to, it's going to, two
10
things.
seconds.
One is going to be filling jobs that already exist, and that means attracting a workforce, people who would be interested in living in a rural area, and then also inviting in new developers who would create job opportunities for especially young professionals, young people who would bring a lot to the community. That's a quick answer. There's a lot to it, though.
I agree with that last statement totally. There is a lot to it. We need to bring in more jobs for people to have employment so that they can stay in our county. That we're losing them because we don't have any jobs. I mean, But also we have to look at, there's other issues going on in our county that are like Kraft Foods has a very hard time finding employees. And there's a reason for that. And that's the epidemic that's going throughout the state of drug use. You can't operate and function a plant such as that one with that kind of workforce. So that it is hard. And I think we're trying to handle that situation also as a county government, and it's very difficult because we have so many things on the table, you know, to try to work with. We need to bring in more industry here too, or that go along with the ones we already have, and then we also have to grow our small ones, you know, and our farms also too. Our farms are feeling the pain and ache right now, and we actually voted a resolution in to send to the state to say a farm can't afford to pay minimum wage and pay overtime, you know. So I think we're doing the right things.
With the population loss, Lewis County in the last statement, I believe, had the highest unemployment in the state. And with me personally, where I've worked from once I graduated, and I drive to Syracuse every day. That's 84 miles one way. I work a part-time job just driving to and from work on a daily basis. Do I want to be home with my family more? Absolutely, but there wasn't the job opportunity here to pursue my degree and what I went to school for. But with that, I've worked in the cities, I've worked in Pennsylvania. I met a lot of people that are from Pennsylvania, New Jersey, that have seasonal homes in Lewis County, Turn, West Turn, Martinsburg, that say this is the most beautiful country they've seen. They've been around the world. They come up for snowmobiling, and that's 20% of the snowmobiling industry is done in Lewis County. Out of 600 miles of trail, which is in Lewis County, 20% of the sledding in New York is done in Lewis County.
10 seconds.
Across New York State, it's $500 million to $800 million, and 20% of that is Lewis County, $120 to $160 million in revenue. If we can find ways to promote that and secure jobs, people will have employment and be able to support their families by utilizing the resources that we have here currently.
Like I stated earlier, I'm looking for new businesses coming to this community. But what we need to do as a county legislator is cut taxes for the businesses and property taxes so people can keep their homes here. Look how many homes are being sold here in this county. Too many. People are leaving this area, leaving New York State because of high tax. As a county government, we can lower taxes as a local government to help better the people to stay here and live here. I've been here 28 years. I want to keep living here. This is my home. I had a home while I was working on the road for 5 years. And I miss every time I went out. Being out the road for 5 years, this is my home. I look forward to coming back home each time. But my time on the road is done. I'm back home, we're good. I want to get back to my roots. And I will stick to help this community to bring in new businesses and put unemployment down to create jobs.
Okay.
You're up, sir.
Yeah. I take a little different look at it, I think, than some of the people do. We just had Kraft create about 150 jobs in Lewis County. Erik, when he and I first met, I was legislator and he's doing the IDA work. I talked with him about going to the existing businesses, talking to the existing businesses and seeing what can we, the county, do for them, help them put on another line, help them hire more people and what have you. So I think a lot of our growth, if we're going to have it for jobs, is going to come from working with what we've got here already. At Fort Drum for 25 years, I hired a lot of people into this area. You had to get two people to like the area. You had to get the candidate, and you had to get the candidate's spouse. And I'll tell you, doing that is not easy. So you've got to make the area attractive. With respect to taxes, I get asked that question a lot. Are you going to lower my taxes? My answer is the same to everybody, folks. I've got friends that work for the town, the village, and the county. They'd like to get a raise, 1-2% a year.
10 seconds.
The economic index is going up all the time, 3 to 5%. So the only way to cut your taxes is to cut services. So we can look at cutting services, but I think everybody likes what we're doing out there. So I'm not sure. Maintaining taxes and spending them wisely is a lot better, realistic. Thank you.
As legislators, who am I asking questions?
Ms. Chartrand.
Okay. Lost the train somewhere. All right. So as legislators, you're part of a board, and you do represent the county as a whole, as an entity as a whole, but you also each represent your district. And each district is different and has different agendas. What do each of you feel are the most pressing issues in your respective districts? You could even mention the strengths, just so we keep it positive.
Okay, very good question. I've had that thought the last few days myself again, because there is a difference. Larry and I were talking the other day. Our different areas, Lowville has different needs than some of the other communities have. But we're all taxpayers of Lewis County. So it's a balancing act constantly to see what we can help with. In relation to Craft in the village, I tried very hard to keep the communication between the village board and Craft going so that they would come to some common ground. And I think for the betterment of the taxpayers of Lewis County, we came to that common ground. Craft expanded, jobs came to Lowville. The farmers have a place for their milk right now. They're tracking milk in from outside the state. So, you know, can we get our farms bigger? I'm not sure. I've listened to the farmers. There's 3 size farmers. The big guy, the little guy, and the guy in the middle. Their needs are all different again. So you have to look at the situation as each situation arises and come to the fact that it's all that. I support the downtown revitalization movement that we're getting to get the money in here, and I hope that does go forward. You might remember we did that 6 years ago.
Now, rebuilding the downtown, I'm all for that, to make it the downtown of this beautiful village a better place and make it look better. Because we had 2 buildings with fires over the years. To make this village look better, we need to update it, get up with the times, and make it everything safer and more joyful for people to come and visit and stay local for a while. So just visiting for a half hour or an hour, they can stay a full day to see the whole entire site of Lowville. I know most of the stuff at Craft right now. I've been there for about 3 weeks. I know a lot to it right now. Company I'm working for them, and I'm pushing more people to go work there because they're always hiring the company I'm with.
With District 7, it's primarily, Mr. Kulzer probably will agree, is it's primarily agricultural and forestry, and it's primarily turned Martinsburg and goes up into the hill and into West Lowville. One thing that's lacking is industry. Back in the heyday, I mean, there was lumber yards, there was several mills up on Tug Hill. Everyone, well, you couldn't make a go at it with the weather that was up there, but that's probably why they moved off the hill, but we don't have that anymore, and that's a source of revenue and jobs. The strengths is what's the other side of the fence now is the strengths have always been agricultural. The farmers, they've always been here, they always will be, but we got to find a way to make it beneficial for them to want to keep going with the hardships that it is. I mean, they're collecting a salary back from 1985, 88. And equipment and fuel has dramatically increased. And recreation, utilize the resources we have from Tug Hill and promote that, and it will bring in revenue and jobs for people within that area.
My turn. Right. Yes, District 7 is Turin and Martinsburg and the hamlet of Glenfield, and of course some of Lowville, which would be the West Lowville area. the real struggle of these towns is that Martinsburg doesn't struggle as much as Turin. Turin struggles much more because they don't have a wind farm there. There's no industry there. Snow Ridge is there, but it's a seasonal business. It doesn't really help their tax base. So their main tax base is their residents. Some of the things that I've tried to do and help, I've gotten into with the planning department for grants for like the town barn. Turin Town Barn isn't properly insulated, so it's very difficult to keep it heated. So we have the planning department, Cassie Buell, and they're looking for grant money, and she's found some that possibly is going to happen next year, where it'll be more. Same goes for Martinsburg. I mean, these smaller towns, if they don't have anything, you got to look for ways to help them, with grants, like the school. Look at the school, Southfield School. I initiated the contact with some of that with the Tug Hill Commission, so that they could go after, and we pushed through a resolution to go for the Tug Hill Commission for grant funding, and hire a company to do that grant. That's all I get to say. I always run out of time every time.
I'm running out of time too. But, so my district, it's the only district that corresponds with a town, just one town, and it's the town of New Bremen. And I had a chance to meet with the town board this week, and we kind of went over some of the issues. A unique issue to New Bremen, and it's, I guess, different from some of the towns in the western part of the county, is the lack of revenue flow because of the absence of any wind development. I know they're looking at solar development, they're looking at pilots for those kinds of things. That's something I have a lot of experience in, and I look forward to working with them on. Another issue that they're looking at is consolidation of services, modernizing tax collection, anything that they can do to try to cut costs, and that'll bring down the line on the town level and at the county level. Population loss. I think New Bremen in the last 100 years has had about no net growth in population, which is kind of interesting. It's basically remained unchanged. And there's concern about people moving out of the town, as there is for all the other towns in Lewis County. There's been a lot of work with developing green spaces, which is really exciting. They received some grant money to put in new park space, which is excellent in terms of drawing in families, making people look at New Bremen as a place they want to settle in. And then, of course, same issue that we're seeing across Lewis County is the drug epidemic. And it seems like, I don't know if it's just because I'm there, but it seems like New Bremen's been particularly hard hit. And that, for me, that'll mean making sure that the police department, social services have the tools and the training that they need. Thank you.
I think we're starting with Mr. Gilbert this time? Okay. My question is, can you define what you see the role as a legislator as? Is it the day-to-day operation of the county, or is it more the bigger picture of dealing with advocating for issues on the state level? How do you see the role of the legislator?
That's a really good question, and I'll flow that back into the last question. First responsibility has to be to the county. That has to come before even our own responsibility to the constituents. And that's the same if you're a member of the House of Representatives. Your commitment to the country has to come before your commitment to your constituents in your own particular district. They're both very important. As far as our role as legislators, our primary role is to do the county's business. That means passing a budget, passing local laws, overseeing and administering the various countywide departments. Now, having said that, a secondary role and a very important role for us as legislators is to use this platform to advocate for change at the state level. And that's something that I think the county board gets a lot of credit for. They've done an excellent job at. When particular policies that come out of Albany, there isn't a lot of resistance just because of the makeup of Albany right now. It's Democratic-controlled legislature and governorship. So if there's going to be any opposition, it has to come from the counties, and that's something that we'll definitely pursue. Thank you.
Can you repeat that question? I just want to get it right through.
Basically, it's just how do you see the role of a legislator? Are you overseeing, micromanaging the day-to-day activities of the county, or is it more the broader picture of advocating for the county at a higher level? How do you define the role of a legislator?
Well, no, the way the legislature is working currently is we are not micromanaging departments. We are more We've changed our committee structure, which I think is working out well. There are committees, all three committees, there are only 3 committees now versus 9 when I became elected, when I was elected. So now there's 3 committees with 3 committee chairs and vice chairs. These 3 committees have taken and swallowed up the others. That has worked out very well. It's consolidated it, it's put it into one day, it makes it much easier. We're doing more of business with the department that has something coming up. You know, if a department's running smoothly and they don't have like a need for personnel, or they don't have a need for resolutions, they don't need to really come to the meeting, and that saves up them time and us time.
10 seconds.
So I think the way we look at it is we have broadened our swath in our view, and run it more of a just, you know, keeping our budgets in line and keeping the departments running smoothly.
Got a very similar view on that. You got to look at the day-to-day tasks and operations, but you got to look ahead too to the state government. You got to listen. You got to hear and listen for the people's voice, their opinions. You put it all in front of you, and you got to look to see what benefits the people and the county at the county level, and transfers into the state level. And one thing just recently, I mean, you can tell I'm very promotive for recreation and whatnot, because that's what I see in the southern half of the county is at the last legislator meeting they adopted the resolution there, which was I think the second time around for this within the state for giving a tax break or a credit or a max credit of $750 to the landowners that open up their land to recreation for snowmobiling, because they don't get nothing but basically a free dinner and a handshake and a thank you, and that's huge. That goes back to the landowners. Hopefully that gets passed, and in turn that'll create more jobs and more interest in Lewis County.
As a county legislator, we need to work with each department within this county, and not only that, but work with the people, learn their needs, what they want to see done, and give our impact to the state. That will have the biggest impact on this community, is by having a voice from Lewis County at the state level saying this is what we want to see done to better not only Lewis County but the greater upstate New York.
Okay, 6 years on as a legislator now, I can agree with Greg. We do not micromanage it. I think our first goal as legislators is the people that we hire is to hire good people. You have to have some experience on how to interview and what you're looking for, what skills and talents that you need. Once you do that, give them the tools that they need, the training that they need to perform their job. And I think that's one of our most important things that we can do as legislators. One of the other goals that I've had was to expand the Lewis County legislators beyond Lewis County. As I said, I worked for Fort Drum 23 years. I used to go crazy because we'd go to a function down there and somebody'd say, "Where's Lewis County? Where's Lewis County? Where's Lewis County?" Today I'm proud to say Lewis County's represented. I think 9 of us went down with the windmill issue, and Watertown was pushing the windmill issue pretty heavy and hot with some of the people that don't like windmills down there. We were invited to Fort Drum to talk the windmill issue and give our perspective on it. I believe that carried a lot of weight for this county and this community, and we were able to continue on
10 seconds.
the way we're doing with that. So that's some of the areas. There's a lot more.
Thank you.
Let's talk windmills for a minute.
Sure.
How many are too many?
That's a question for National Grid, because they're the ones that have to accept that energy and develop it. And I think they're saying that there's almost enough for what their lines can handle, and then they have to go in and rebuild their lines.
I guess that's a broader question. I guess what I'm trying to ask you is, how far do you want to go with windmills and with solar and with renewable energy?
that's more of a hypothetical question, I think, than a practical question, because we've got 3 windmill projects out there right now in the books yet. We've got one, I believe, that's going through some Article 10 regulations and what have you. As somebody said earlier, Tug Hill has got some awful rocky land. There were some awful tough farmers up there farming for years. They never got a penny, hardly, to come back in, and they worked very, very hard. Now, if they can have a windmill on their land, and they can make a little money and reinvest it back in the county, I think that's a good thing. Fort Drum has come online and said that it is not a problem with Fort Drum, the windmills that are up there. We work to get them into the process, and they're very happy for that. And they will tell you today it's working well. So windmills that will work, not interfere with Fort Drum, our largest economic indicator in the Tri-County area, I will support jobs coming into Lewis County. So, but we're reaching the max level of just a saturation point of land.
With windmills, it's a great opportunity to have the windmills here. It creates jobs. But before we do another windmill project, we need to look and see if we can use some of the windmill here. Like 4 or 5 can just run this county. Why are we running all the power to New York City, not keep any here? Some people I've been talking to over the years have mentioned that to me, and they're saying, why can't we keep some of the energy right here in this county instead of sending it other places?
With that question, they're a benefit for the county. Sitting on the town planning board for term and working with our chairman, Howard Leitner, we changed our code to accommodate windmills and solar. That code was implemented many, many years ago. It was outdated. And if people look to implement additional windmills on that southern part of the ridge from Martinsburg south into Seaville, that whole ridge carries across the hill, they may not go to the town. They look at the code and say, well, they have height restrictions, they have setbacks, they don't allow solar, windmills, what have you. We're going to go to the next town, in Copenhagen, so on and so forth. So in doing that and speaking with Howard and everyone else on the board, we did change it so we can accommodate if they look to select, turn as a candidate for windmill. But with that, the workers that come in, yes, they're the experts. They're from Texas, they're from Georgia, they're from out of state. But a lot of them, people that work for the windmills that initially built them, have now stayed and now are friends of mine. They may not still work for the windmills, but they're working at Kraft or they're working at another business within Lewis County. So the windmills not only bring people and a source of revenue into the county, people end up staying. And then they have a family, and that adds to the population within Lewis County.
Well, my position would be as many windmills as we can possibly bring. I don't see a problem with windmills. Fort Drum has, since we've discussed it with Fort Drum, they don't have issues with it. They can work with us, and we brought the wind towers together with Fort Drum so that they could discuss all those issues, and they're satisfied. So I think if we continue on down the line into Turn, into Seaville, there's land available up there, and I think it would be a great revenue for the taxpayers of those towns and the county also. That would help these towns that don't have any industry. I mean, Turn when it was first started in 1846, they had a sawmill. That was what their industry was. They were loggers and sawmill people. It was taken over from the Indians, and that's what came in. It was a sawmill, and that's where jobs were, and then that started the building process. But the windmills would be very helpful for there, and I do believe there will be a solar project in Turn. I believe on the East Road that the project's supposed to go off on that one. And solar would be the same thing. That's what the state wants. That's what the country really needs. Reliable energy with no cost.
So with respect to wind energy, and I think this applies equally to solar energy as well, each project needs to be viewed on its own merits. Some wind projects are good, some wind projects are bad, some fall kind of in the middle. And I would just say that with any new wind projects coming up that the board needs to deal with, I've worked on a number of projects myself. I've worked on Deer River, I've worked on Mad River. Recently I've worked on Galoo Island. I'm involved in Tracy Solar right now, which is up in the town of Orleans. So I've actually been through the entire Article 10 process, working as an attorney from the very inception stage all the way up to completion, or at least close to completion, or in the case of Galoo Island where the project fell apart. The only things I would say beyond that, the issue with jobs, the reality is that the wind power doesn't bring in a whole lot of jobs. There's a quick injection of jobs with the construction workers hiring local paving crews and to do the fill work and things like that. But in the long term, it doesn't create a lot of job opportunities. And the real benefit is with the tax, the extra tax money, that it helps some of the towns and in the county obviously to reduce their budget, but it's not a permanent solution. So I'm open to it. I think that we need to get good deals on them, but at the same time, it's not the only solution we should be looking for our economic issues.
Trainor, you get the last question of the night. You can go.
I do?
Yeah.
Well, I think if we're going to wrap this up, it's really encouraging to see that there's some new blood, some new faces trying to get involved in the county legislator. And obviously, if you're serving, or if you want to serve, you have a purpose, you have a need and a desire to serve the people of which you represent. So I think a good final question would be, what would be your number one issue? What is your biggest priority if elected and if you continue to serve the people of Lewis County? Your number one.
Okay. So we've kind of touched on this a lot, but my biggest interest, and this is something I've always been interested from a policy standpoint, is ways that you can improve the economy as a means to then reducing poverty. A lot of the issues that we have here in Lewis County, whether we're talking about the drug epidemic, whether we're talking about the graduation rates, or just the brain drain, a lot of that comes down to economic opportunity. And I view, if you look around at states that are successful, even nations that are successful, what is the defining characteristic of a successful nation, state, or community? And it tends to be that they're enacting policies that allow people to pursue their own success. And that would be a priority for me. And I realize at the county level there's only so much we can do. But at the same time, we are going to be working on a lot of important things. So again, my real interest is ways that we can improve the economy as a means to reducing poverty and increasing the standard of living.
Well, my number one goal, I think, would be to continue to try to stimulate the job market and the economy here in Lewis County. I think as a legislator, we need to go forward with some policies to try to help the businesses that are here and the small businesses that want to start up. Because I think right now that we're not going to have a 200 job company pull in this town. We're just not. We're going to rely on the small ones, the 1 and 2 and 3 size companies to come in here. And I think there are economic benefits from those. I think the IDA has tried very hard to generate those businesses, and I think they continue to try, and I give Erik Verkler credit with that he's done his best to generate those small businesses and let them grow, and then they'll be bigger. I can tell you there's one in Lyons Falls that's already hired an employee. You know, the dairy that started up down there started up as the husband and wife, and now they have an employee. So that's what we need to do. We need to continue that process.
I guess one of my key topics or points would be infrastructure. That's a topic we haven't discussed yet, but infrastructure is huge because, I mean, that is my background, that is my occupation, that is heavy highway, roads, and bridges. New York is one of the worst in the country with their infrastructure. We're years behind. Lewis County does a great job in maintaining the roads, and I don't think a lot of people do not understand the kind of stress the roads and the culverts and the bridges go through. They go through 4 seasons, and it's a big variation with the frost, the winter, and the maintenance that goes in it. But if we can find, there are other alternatives out there that maybe cost a little more initially up front, but the cost savings, today you only get 6 to 10 years out of a road. There's other processes out there that may cost more, 10 or 15% up front, but you'll get 2 lifespans out of a road or a bridge or a culvert. Maybe you get that 10 to 20 years out of it. In turn, you're going to be saving money, maybe not now, but 20, 30, 40 years down the road for the next generation where you want them to stay or move into Lewis County. And in turn keep the taxes down and increase and have a better infrastructure in Lewis County.
My main focus and goal has to be 2 things, is cutting taxes. Like I keep saying, I will keep saying cutting taxes. We need to cut taxes. And now with all this drugs in this county, we need to take a stand when these people go to court, work better with our law enforcement officers to help them out to get a strong case to bring to the courts. And when they're at court, they need to pay a higher fines. I mean, seriously, we need to make sure they are paying high fines. Tell them we're not taking any more drugs in this county. We will put a stop to it, but we have to work together at the county board, with our DA and our law enforcement and the judges to make this go away. We will make this a drug-free county, but it will take time.
Okay, as a member of the Lewis County Board of Managers for the hospital, my #1 commitment is to keep that hospital in Lewis County and in Lowville, New York. It's right up there with Kraft, just number of employees that it has, and it's beyond Kraft with the number of people that it reaches, both health-wise and lifestyle-wise and stuff. So that would be my #1 thought, would be I'd like Larry to continue to let me serve on the Board of Managers up there and help keep the hospital into the black where it is now. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we'll now take a closing statement. Each candidate will have a minute. We'll start with Mr. Chartrand and work our way down the table.
Okay, well, part of my closing thought was the hospital, so you just heard that, so we'll move on to something else. I will continue to keep your taxes manageable, provide essential services to the people I represent, and listen to the people who talk to me about what they need and what they want. Andrea and I had a very enjoyable 2 hours today. We went to the meal site down on the East Road, talked to a group of 19 senior citizens who told me something I didn't realize. Even though they get out and about and they meet twice a month, they really had a lot of questions about what's going on. Some of them were legislative questions, some were town questions, some were village questions. But we vowed to them to go back in 4 months, explain what we had been able to do and find out answers to their questions and get back. I think I'm encouraged to ask the other legislators in their districts to do the same thing.
10 seconds.
I ran on experience, education, commitment, and dedication. I believe the last 6 years will show that I have all of those talents to make this job work. Thank you. And well, I got about 2 minutes left. I want to thank all who voted and supported me in the past. As a Democrat, you know darn well I needed a bunch of Republicans to win and hold office. So I will continue to do what I've done for 6 years. Hopefully it's enough for you to vote. Thank you.
I have to say, I'm very active in this community. I have been since I was 12 years old, volunteering most of my time to the Lewis County Fair Board, helping them out when needed. Putting my time to the Cream Cheese Festival, volunteering there. I have background with the FFA organization right here in this school. I served as an officer 4 years when I was here in the high school part. Other clubs, I have served as an officer, so I know what to do it as an officer. Through the Sons of the American Legion, I held two offices at the post level, and at the district, I was the vice president representing this county for the Sons.
10 seconds.
I will work hard to meet the people's needs of this county and just make sure we are working together to make Lewis County greater. Thank you.
Basically, it's just listen and hear the people's opinions and voices, and then take that to the county and do what's best for the county. I'll admit, when I graduated high school, I wanted to get out of Lewis County, go on and something bigger and better, and I got a job out of Syracuse, which I still have as a project manager, and I've been to Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and I found my way back here, and got involved as within the village of Turn as a mayor, putting that budget together. But in doing so, Turn is a very, very small community, but when you put your time in and work hard at it, you'd be amazed at other ideas and the people and the resources that you can pull from that will help you. And be sure I'll put the time in as legislator if elected, and with that, other ideas come about and help promote the infrastructure, recreation, which is huge for the county. I mean, it's $1 million industry that is out there, and if we can work to find grants and promote trails and give back to the landowners, in turn we can have more recreation, walking trails, ATV trails. It in turn brings money and people to Lewis County.
I'd just like to thank everyone in the audience and the news crew here, and the Republican Committee again for sponsoring this. I've been a legislator for 6 years now. I've enjoyed every minute of it. I've dedicated much time to it, not only to sitting on the legislature, but going to all my boards. I continually go to my town boards, Martinsburg and Turn, to bring back information that I need to try to help the towns. That is one thing that I do find I try to help the towns as much as possible. Whenever they tell me they have a problem, I try to help them if there's a way for me to do that as a legislator. And I just want to thank everybody for coming, and I look forward to hopefully your vote on June 25th. It's an early day. Thank you very much.
Well, you've all heard my thoughts on the issues that we've discussed here tonight. I'd just like to close by saying again, thank you everybody who came out. Thank you to the media for the questions, and for Mike and the local party for putting this on. One of the best pieces of advice I heard early on in my career when I was still in law school was from Judge Merrill when I was interning for him. He said that you always need to be courteous to your colleagues because we're a small bar in Lewis County, and you'll never know when you need them to have your back. I bring that exact same mentality to the Board of Legislators. That's how I work in my own career right now. I work very collegial with the other attorneys that I have to work with my own clients. But I think that as far as the board goes, I would work well with the current board. I think they've done an excellent work, and I'd like to help to continue that work. And I think I could be really good in helping to build consensus as far as new ideas, exploring new things. A lot of people I've talked to, they said that they like to see fresh blood coming forward and joining the Board of Legislators. That's what I hope to do. And I really appreciate your vote on the 25th if you live in New Bremen. So thank you very much.
Thank all the candidates for coming. As Mrs. Lutz properly corrected me, primary date is the 25th, and until next year, it will stay from noon to 9. So please get out and vote. I appreciate all of you being here. The idea of having an informed public and informed voters is very important. I realize this is just a primary, but it's great. I must admit I'm pleasantly surprised that we had a large turnout we've had tonight. I'm hoping that you'll speak to your friends and continue the discussions, and most importantly, remind people about primary day. Primaries usually only gather 20 to 30% of the vote. Primary date in June, the last couple of years at the federal level, when we've had primaries for Congress, have been lucky to pull out 10 to 15%. So we need people to get out and vote, because if you don't vote, you really don't have anything to complain about who gets elected. So thank you all for being here. We appreciate your time. Have a great evening. I want to thank the press again for coming. I appreciate the time we spent.